You gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you. It's, oh my goodness, almost 9:45 on a Tuesday night. That's what happens. I know there's been some great conversation going on in the live chat where I was even keeping tabs of that. But hey, Steelers fans, where else would you rather be? With me as always, except when he's not, which he almost wasn't tonight.
Almost wasn't.
It is my big brother Rich, Big Bro Scho. You're here. You're ready to go, aren't you?
Man, I'll tell you what. Thankfully, thankfully, I did not pass any law enforcement on the way home. I'll just tell everybody what it was. So, I am the treasurer for the Mountain Maryland branch of the National Deer Association. We had a meeting tonight. Our president resigned after 10 years of serving on the 1st of January, so we were having to try to get some new leadership in place and make some big-time decisions for our group, and that just ran kind of long. So, yeah, I took care of scheduling the meeting. I scheduled out the room at the college for us until 9, but figured the 2 hours and whatever, and finally I kicked everybody out at 9 and said, sorry, gotta go.
Kathy has a good question. She said, was that deer or beer? Deer in the background, like you see on the background of Big Bro if you're looking at us here live. But hey, let's get into Steelers talk, because I was like, hey, I could get going and start talking, and then Rich comes in. But honestly, you were looking forward to this topic tonight. We're going to get to really soon. We're going to talk about the Steelers' second-year players, meaning second year after they drafted them. Not someone who they signed as a free agent that was in year 2 in Pittsburgh. We're not worried about that. I
agree, Steel Dog. I agree.
But what's that? He said
both.
He said both. And so let's talk about a few things, Steelers. Couple things. All right. Well, we could go into stuff for a long time with some of the things that are happening. First thing, this even got more. How do I say it? When you hear from Jerry Dulac, you kind of know that there's a little bit more to it. Sometimes is he really behind on the news? Yeah. But when he says it, it's much better confirmed. People think I'm going to start one place, but I'm not. The one that he had later tonight, which was something that came out earlier today, is that anytime now we expect it to be officially announced that the Steelers will be playing one of their home games this coming season in Ireland. So that's pretty much, we don't know who. We won't know when. We do know that the Steelers were scheduled to have 9 home games in the regular season this coming season, but every 4 years, well, not 4 years, I guess it would be every 4-year cycle. So I guess it would maybe be 8 years. Teams are going to give up one of their home games. So you knew it was coming eventually with the Steelers. So that's what it's going to be. What do you think about the Steelers playing in Ireland, bro?
Hopefully,
we're going to think it's the break on the show if you don't say something.
Hopefully when the game is over, it will be good for the Steelers and we can all jump around.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. You had to, I had a feeling you would maybe go there with a House of Pain reference, just with it being Ireland. But yeah, yes. I mean, the Steelers played a preseason. How long ago was that they played that preseason game there?
It's been a while.
I can't even. Brian Anthony Davis knows what year. I don't know what year. So I'm
and he could tell you, and he could tell you what the number 1 song for that year was as well.
Yeah, and he'll probably tell you what the score was. No, he'll tell you what the number 1 song was that week when that game was played.
Probably,
that's what he would tell you. So I'll make sure I ask him that. Maybe I should do that as my trivia on Thursday. Jeff, you can go ahead and look it up. I know you'll listen to the show. Brian, he'll hear this for the first time Thursday night. But there are already people saying, "Hey, yeah, I'd go to Ireland. I would love to to go to Ireland just to watch the Steelers, but that's all right.
Oh, Kathy, she cracks me up. Hey, they've got deer and beer in Ireland.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
You can't make me laugh too hard. I'm still getting over having a kind of a bad cough. If you guys hear me cough and laugh at the same time, that's why. If you're watching, you might see when Big Bro's talking, me coughing while I'm on mute. Hopefully I'll remember to mute my microphone. If not, I apologize now. So that's one thing. That's good. That's exciting news. Jerry Bear had another one today. He had an article. I read the whole article because I wanted to know precisely what was going on. Where he had reports from inside the facility, which makes me say, all right, we've got to reach out to our source and see if we can get any confirmation of this. That there was a kind of a big falling out. I guess you could say falling out, change in philosophy, having issues or whatever. Russell Wilson went bonkers in that game against the Bengals. Steelers, tons of points scored, lots of yards through the air. Apparently, Arthur Smith didn't like how much Russell Wilson was changing the play. Now, I could spin this either way. Especially as someone who, used to coach. I mean, I'm sorry. There wasn't a lot of audibles when I was coaching. Pretty much the play that I called, they had to run when you're talking freshman high school football. But to me, there's a problem if the quarterback can't ever change the play. There's also a problem if the quarterback changes
every play. Yeah.
So I'm not sure which end of the spectrum this was to know which entity should take more criticism for this. I mean, honestly, I'll ask you this, Rich, just based on, gut feeling, how you've seen and watched or anything. Which way would you go to where you would think that one's more at fault than the other?
I would imagine that probably Russell Wilson was changing an awful lot of the plays.
Mm-hmm.
Although in that particular game, you can also sit and argue, did he get it wrong? Because the Steelers scored a lot of points and won.
Yes. And that's the way I look at it too. That's why my knee-jerk reaction to it is, sorry, Art. Sometimes you just got to do what works. Maybe part of the problem was there was that early pick six.
Maybe.
I don't know exactly where. I'm glad the report's out there, but there's so much more to it that you would need to really judge it a little bit better. But I think and I thought it was a Matt Canada thing. Things that I was told was issues that was even specifically with Matt Canada, that him and Tomlin weren't seeing eye to eye because Canada wanted his play run every time. Which to me is a little bit too extreme. To me, the offensive coordinator and quarterback have to be working together. That so much so that the coordinator has the quarterback. I mean, my goodness, you should be calling two plays and then picking which one it is when you go to the line. So, and it's awful hard to argue against those results in that game.
Yeah.
That was the next to last game the Steelers won this past season. So it at least I really don't know where to go from here, because I could see first thing I'd want to do is want to jump all over the coordinator. Like, come on, you've got to let your quarterback do things. Obviously it worked. Why'd you have such a problem with it? Unless there was more to it than that. So I don't know. Very interesting. That's going to be a big topic of discussion, I'm sure, for, I was going to say weeks, but I'm going to say probably months. So We'll just have to see. And I know a lot of people were talking about, hey, um, they ran better when they were running the hurry up. Okay, yeah, Afton said it. It's like those last few games, they were much better in no huddle. Do you want to know why? That's true. That's true. Part of that is you're like, oh, because the quarterback's calling plays. That was something people would say about Ben Roethlisberger a lot. Oh, he's better in no huddle. Let him just go to the line, call the play, and they do better. But you also got to remember what no huddle does as well. It shuts down more options that you could get from the defense.
Yep. The defense's playbook goes from, from an encyclopedia to a children's book.
No, I was going to say it's to an index card.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're doing it where they can't substitute. I mean, sometimes that's why some people are like, well, why do they run to the line so quickly, but then take forever to snap the ball? Well, sometimes you do that to keep the defense from substituting because you like the personnel they have out there compared to the personnel you have out there.
Then I think that's you're making sure you're getting your personnel lined up where you want them to take the biggest advantage of the personnel they have out there.
Yeah, and it's funny because John S. says about the infamous drawing plays in the dirt from Big Ben. Didn't that get debunked?
Yes.
Yeah, that he's like, no, there's like we never ran a play that wasn't in the playbook. Or rarely, maybe it was rarely, ran a play that wasn't in the playbook. Things like that. So, yeah. So anything else more you want to say about that, bro?
No, sir. I want to get to the topic at hand.
Okay. Well, sometimes you got to get a little bit longer answer so you give me more time to cough. All right.
You,
so we're talking.
You hadn't been laughing, so you told me that's when you
well, it doesn't always take laughing. So let's look at. We're going to look at the Steelers' second-year players. This is fun to do. We've covered this a little bit on the preview because we're kind of looking at everybody there. And we're going to say, all right, so how did their year one compare to their year two, and how should it look for year three? We're going to go in draft order. Does that sound good?
Yes, I think that's how we should go.
So, Broderick Jones. First things first. This year, step forward, step back, hold true. Where would you put him?
All right, so, gonna love this one. This is a great Dave answer. So, Broderick Jones in the first half of the season, I felt took a small step backwards, but then for the second half of the season, took a large step forward. So overall, it's a small forward for Broderick Jones.
All right. I'm really close to that because it's almost like you copied my answer when I answered this on the preview several weeks ago. And that was, I don't think he had a small step back to start the season. I thought he had a huge step back. He would not, think about it. He did not start week 2, and if it wasn't for an injury to Troy Fautanu, he would not have been a starter. He would not have been on the field. He took a big step back. He was, my goodness, I was talking about him being a first-time Pro Bowler and stuff like that for the Steelers because of how he finished his rookie year. He came in, he looked, honestly, not much better than where he started his first practice his first year, when it was his first practice of his second year. So I'm not saying he took a step back. It was like he went right back to where he started. It at least felt that way. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit. But he did get better as the season went on. And there were some games where he was the best lineman they had at the end of the season. So to me, in all, I think it was a wash. I know a lot of people complain, why you even bring these up? All right. I have an opinion of what I think of Broderick Jones. You have an opinion of what you think of Broderick Jones. I bring up the numerical opinion that PFF does. Whether you like it or you don't, it still tells you something. I'm going to ask you, which season do you think he scored higher on PFF? 23 or 24?
Probably, I'd love to say 23 because I thought he was more consistent last year, but it was probably 24 because PFF tends to end up in the end weight their things towards more. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, well, I mean, because this is just more about. I mean, this is just raw scores of everything from last year to this year. His overall score. Now, I'll tell you, it was below a 60. So both years they had him slightly less than average. But the two scores were really close. They were really close. It was slightly better in 2024. He improved run blocking somewhat. Both of those scores were over 60. He improved significantly pass blocking, according to them, although, we gave up a lot of pressures and everything. The biggest thing was, he improved a bunch in that category. Some of the other, why didn't his overall score go up more? Something that we have to consider. He had 10 penalties called on him last season.
He had more penalties this season.
I mean, 10. Two of them were offsetting or not accepted. I think both of those were unsportsmanlike ones where they were offsetting. There was, and honestly, they would have had another one for him, but I threw it out. When it's an illegal formation, the tackle on the end of the line that isn't covered is not responsible for that penalty. Just because they said number 77 was uncovered, the penalty's not on number 77.
Right.
So that's not his fault. So that's part of it. So that's why in some aspects his game improved, but in others it wasn't as much. He had more penalties. He did, how do I say it? He had some of his good plays were really good, but my goodness, he did have some holy cow, what are you doing? Week 2 in Denver, there was a lot of holy cow, what are you doing? And things of that nature. So I felt like he showed a little bit more ceiling, but he also showed some huge inconsistency throughout the season. So how do you feel about him going forward?
The upcoming year is really the make or break for Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones was drafted. We knew he was a raw player. We knew that the athleticism was fantastic, but it was raw.
Yeah.
Typically, those types of players, if you haven't gotten it figured out better by year 3, you tend to wash out of the league pretty quickly. You may bounce around a little bit, but your days of being a starter and real contributor are gone. So the next year will say a lot about Broderick Jones and his future.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, a lot of people are talking about, getting him back to left tackle. Let's see if they move him back to left tackle. I think that's the plan, but people are like, that's his natural position. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I'm pretty sure if you look at starts in both college and pros, he has now started more games at right tackle than left tackle. I do think that the one game he started for the Steelers last year at left tackle was the best game he played.
I thought so too. I thought he played a really good game there.
That was against the Ravens early in the season last year. So let's just say it. I would love to see that make a difference, but I'm not sold that it's going to change a thing. I'm not banking on that being something that's going to make a huge difference. You know what? I like what Afton says. Put him wherever it makes our line the strongest. Yes. So maybe he would do much better at left. Honestly, why did he play right tackle this past year?
Because if the combination was going to be him and Dan Moore, it was the one that made more. They went with the combination that made more sense in terms of which one playing where.
Because Troy Fautanu got hurt and Jones was the swing tackle.
Yep.
That was it. So that's why I do say that, I could say that he could be better at one than the other. It's possible, but it's also possible that he's no better at one than the other. I love what you said about when raw, but very athletic. By year 3, if you don't have it together, you're in trouble. I think you're spot on.
Yeah.
So I think he's got a huge year to where is he going to be something for the Steelers to build on, or is he going to be something that the Steelers are already going to have to replace?
Yep.
Think about it. The Steelers in 2021 drafted a center in the third round, and by 2024 they had to go around higher to draft another one.
Yeah.
Sometimes that sometimes what do you know? The Steelers might even have to draft another tackle in the next couple of years because it didn't this year. No, that you've got to give it another year, unless he completely falls off. But to me, that's where it goes with Broderick Jones. Anything else you want to say about him? You ready to go?
Moving on.
Yeah, let's move on. So next, why is it escaping me? Joey Porter Jr. There we go.
Round number 2, but technically done with the 31st pick, which would have been round number 1.
Well, 32nd pick. Yeah.
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 No, wasn't that the year that somebody lost a pick?
That's why he was the 32nd pick.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
But Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah.
Overall, I feel he took a step forward this year. Now, you could make some arguments because he also drew a lot of penalties this year.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I think we need to see from Joey Porter Jr. moving forward. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm already moving into that because I think it will explain a lot about what's going on. Year 1, Joey Porter Jr. was kind of finding his way in the league and seeing what he could do, and he realized, yep, he had the athletic skills and the football abilities to play in this league. Last year, he spent a lot of time then trying to play the game exactly the way he played in college and play the game he wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, I think what we need to see is a little more, I'm going to call it cerebral, out of Joey Porter Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Porter Jr., I think, needs to adjust his game. And where Joey Porter Jr. needs to go and do his homework and adjust his game has more to do with the crew officiating the game than it does necessarily with the player he's going up against or Joey Porter Jr.
Okay, I understand what you're saying because I know Joey Porter Jr., they talked about him and his film and everything that he studies it a lot. But so I see what you're saying. He needs to know more about the officiating crew that is going to be calling that game in order to play accordingly.
Correct. Because because you saw it this year. Some crews he got away with a little more contact, and other crews you don't. You have to know how those crews are going to call the game and adjust your game accordingly so you're not drawing a ton of penalties.
Yeah.
If he cleans that up, he is one of the best in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, to me, Joey Porter Jr., I'm going to say that it was another one of the where he didn't. This one's tough because I said on this show before that, oh my goodness, he finished the season so well as a rookie. All he has to do is give us the same season next year, and it's good. And I feel like he kind of did, but he didn't. But there's a reason for that.
There's actually,
and the reason for that is that they asked him to do more.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for example, like I'll quote the PFF scores. His PFF score was not as good this year. Okay, it was down like 10 points. His coverage score was down 10 points. Yet, each season, last year he played 850 snaps. This year, over 1,000 snaps. Each season he was credited by PFF. Remember, Pro Football Reference could give you a different number because these are all judgment calls. He was credited with surrendering 1 touchdown. 1. And according to PFF and their stats, like I said, that touchdown for him was in week 4 against the Colts. That was the only touchdown he surrendered this season. So I can... And I mean, you got to also look at the matchups they had going with him. I felt like he might not have graded out as good this past year, just by other people looking at him as well. But I think he was asked to do so much more. I mean, look, they wouldn't even start him until partway through the season last year. And he comes in this year and he's starting off being the guy.
Yeah, the other thing last year is that they were so weak in other areas of the secondary, especially on the other side at corner, that it was just easier for teams to throw away from him.
Yeah.
You know, if they were like, oh, he's hot this game, well, we'll just not throw at Joey Porter Jr. Mm-hmm. Well, this year he was pretty much always falling around the other team's number one. It wasn't playing, aside. Mm-hmm. And so he was going to do it. The other thing is I think teams learned about him was that, hey, we're going to take some shots at that because we may get some calls.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did.
Yeah. I was trying to calculate something here.
But overall, I think so far the Steelers and Steeler fans are happy with what they've gotten in Joey Porter Jr. I just want to see him continue to mature and continuing doing what I call those professional things.
Yeah.
To improve his game.
And I
like the physical, everything physically is there. Mm-hmm. It's the professional side of things that the dotting the I's and crossing the T's and seeing it to the little things that are really going to take his game to the next level.
Yeah. And I will let you know penalty wise, he had 17 penalties called against him this past season, 5 of which were declined or offsetting. I guess one was declined because he was called twice for the same play.
Yeah.
He had 12 last year.
Right.
So,
and that was him starting half the season.
Yeah, and that was playing about 80% of the snaps that he played this season. So, and that was 12 to 17. So it wasn't a big deal. And remember, 6 of those 17, so more than a third of those penalties came in one game. I mean, if you look at it, 1, 2, 3, I'm trying to count them up, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of the Steelers' 17 games, he did not have a penalty called on him. So, yeah, you could say the penalties are a problem. He averaged 1 a game, but generally it was games when he would have one, he would have more than one. And I think that's important of knowing the officiating crew. A really good point with that. But also, I am going to bring this up one more time. I'm like, Steelers fans can't have it all. Because I saw and it's funny when I say Steelers fans have it all. It's not necessarily fans that are complaining about one thing and then fans complaining about a contradictory thing being the exact same fans. Although sometimes they are. We know the Filipponis of the world. But I'm not saying they're the same fans, but it's just Steelers fans as a whole. You hear so much about this team needs to be more physical. This team needs to be more physical like the teams in the 70s were. I just wish they were more physical like back in the day. And we mentioned this on the show, Joey Porter Jr. comes out and plays a Mel Blount style game and gets 6 penalties, and Steelers Nation roasts him and throws him under the bus. So you can't have it both ways. You want him to be really physical, and then when he gets called for it, be mad that he had a penalty.
Right. The game seems to get called for it. I'd have swore that was 47 out there.
Yeah, because they just had the philosophy. And honestly, that to me I think was somewhat had to do with an officiating crew, because you've got to find out that there will be crews out there that they'll let the receivers do everything and the defenders do nothing.
Yep.
And that's what he came up against. He's like, hey, if T. Higgins is going to be really physical, we're going to be physical back. We're going to, and I mean, that's why Coach Tom didn't have any problem with all those penalties when he's asked about it the next week. He's like, if he's physical, he did that whole, using your fouls against Shaq analogy. So I get that. But to me, that was an officiating crew that they were going to let the receivers do whatever they want and call the defensive backs for everything. And notice, let me look, how many penalties did he have on them when they played again? That would be 0. So he averaged 3 penalties a game against the Bengals. All 6 were, with all 6 being in one game. So to me, I think what's going to make Joey Porter Jr. more this year is who else is going to be with him in the secondary.
Yes.
Who's going to be your other cornerback? What are you going to do for if you're going to run a 3 safety package? Who's it going to be? Who's your slot corner? Because it was obvious that the Steelers, even though he made plays, the Steelers didn't trust Beanie Bishop to do enough other things because he barely played by the end of the season. So, and it's got to be, it can't be another Cam Sutton type situation because he was just bad. He was just bad. Yeah, so hopefully improvements across the secondary can actually help Joey Porter Jr. as well. So, and Jamie Carlos says it perfect. JPJ is the best we got. That's how I feel.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So, all right, we're going to take our break.
Take a break and let's keep
Then
it
we're
rolling.
going to come back, finish this up. So if you're with us here live, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us in the audio, stick around. We'll be right back.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax. Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax.
All right, we got to relax. Don't worry, we're going to roll on through. So, all right. So far, Broderick Jones we felt was kind of the same. Big year coming for him to show that he can get the job done. Joey Porter Jr. we felt kind of the same, but it's a much different same than what it was for Broderick Jones. Wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Completely, because that he started off at a higher level. It just seems that way. All right, let's roll through this. Next up, we have the other second round draft pick from 2023, Keanu Benton. Rich, Keanu Benton. Step forward, step back, hold true. What do you got?
I'm going to say step forward with a slight asterisk.
Okay.
So, I think that he showed that a lot of the things that he can do. The asterisk is because I feel he needs to play all his snaps at defensive tackle.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
He had up and down games with things. To me, I was a little bit more disappointed because Keanu Benton was my breakout star for this year. I was ready for him to just blow up. But you know what? He didn't. You know who kind of blew up instead? Cam Hayward blew back onto the scene.
Yeah.
Okay. So it would have been nice to really get Keanu Benton going along with that. I do think the best thing for him is to not be playing nose tackle anymore.
Yep.
I think the Steelers need to let go of Larry Ogunjobi. You're not getting the production versus the pay. You need to have Keanu Benton be more of that defensive tackle or even defensive end type player, and that you need that to have somebody else that could be that nose. Now, I know a lot of Steelers fans talk about, what that nose? It's just that Casey Hampton that's just comes in and just plugs it up so well. The problem is
that's 30% of the snaps.
That's 30% of the snaps.
Yep.
It really is. So it's hard. It's honestly, it's like having a full-time fullback.
Yeah.
It's hard to do in today's NFL. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, and I'm not saying that they can't. It's just not easy. So to me, wouldn't you assume that if they say thank you for your service, Lario, that Benton would be the guy that would slide to the tackle
to me,
spot?
it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And it just really seems to be. And I will say this for Keanu Benton this year. Nothing better than a big man INT.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he, I'm trying to. That was come on, what game was that? Why can't I help?
Cleveland.
Was it?
It was Cleveland and Cincinnati. I was there. I was
It was
at-
week 14.
So yeah, that should have been Cleveland
Yeah.
at
Yep.
home.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. That was pretty good. He had he did pretty well there. So I think that'd be now. I also get that. Hey, you draft a guy, and as you're bringing him along, having him play at nose to get him more snaps, and then also having him, to get him on the field more. Not a bad idea. I just think it would be better for Benton to not have him do that anymore. And the Steelers got to answer some questions on the defensive line anyway. So why not go for that position to let Benton kick out? Once again, looking at the PFF stuff, just to give you another opinion, he was down a little bit this year, but honestly, it's because he had a really high score last year. He was in the 70s both years, which is pretty good for PFF.
Yeah.
So, and he's only had one penalty called on him each season. To me, I think that the arrow is up. I thought there was going to be, he was my big sleeper breakout guy this past year, and I wouldn't say that he broke out, but I would say he's on his way to being there. You pair him with a 320-pound dude on the inside, with him and Cam out there in the base defense, I'd take that off.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So, all right, you good there?
Yes.
All right, so we're finally rolling on into the third round. Steelers' third round pick, Darnell Washington. What do you think of Mount Washington?
Okay. I'm going to give an answer with a caveat kind of to it. So Mount Washington, I would say, is trended down this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's entirely his fault. I still don't think he's being utilized the way he could be.
Okay.
I just don't think, he is basically, they've turned him into Mark Spaeth, and I think he's more than Matt Spaeth, and he's more than that.
Yes,
but they're only using him like Matt Spaeth.
Okay, I agree, but I'm not saying that he's trending down. I'm saying he's trending way up, because if they didn't use him last year, they definitely didn't use him the year before.
That's true. So,
would you have liked to have seen more? Yes. But my goodness, he was not used the year. I'm pretty sure he had 10 targets his rookie year. 10 targets. Okay. This year, let's see. Let's look at him as a receiver. Some of these receiving stats. So I'm just trying to find it. Where'd they go? For some reason, I can't find it. That's a little bit too much. All right. Why can't I get any of his good stats right now? But I know last year he had like 10 targets. But this year he had significantly more, and I can't find it, which is really ticking me off right now. But
what do you think significantly more is?
Oh wait, I found I was looking. It was 2.5 times more.
Okay, so he had 25.
Yeah, 25. Which
I knew he didn't make 30. I knew he didn't make 30.
Yeah, but not only that, he caught 20 of them.
That's why I think that's what I was going to say. That's why I think that he's being underutilized. The guy catches the ball.
Unless Russo throws it over top of him and it's an interception. Sorry.
Yeah, unless Russ throws it over top, or they throw it, 3 feet short of him. That I know is one of his incompletions this year too. Threw the ball that basically bounced before it got to his feet. I wish we just thrown the ball a little more.
Yeah, because the thing is, he can block. We know this. So to me, he is the ultimate weapon. What makes him the ultimate weapon is you put him and Freiermuth out there, and Freiermuth got better blocking this past year than he had been in the past. You put them both out there, You don't know what's coming. That's why I talked about this. I went off on it on the Pittsburgh Standard Time, so I'll try not to go off on it too much here. I'm like, get your friggin' weapons on the field together. That's why I say you put Jalen Warren, you put Pat Freiermuth, you put Darnell Washington, you put George Pickens and Mike Williams.
Yes. Love it.
You put those on the field together. Is it going to be a pass or going to be a run? Do you know what the answer is?
Yes.
Yes. The real answer is whatever the defense set up, not expecting
stop. Yeah, whatever they set up to stop, do the opposite.
You put that personnel package out there because, my goodness, they tried. They did it again. That was the Cincinnati game at the end of the season, I'm pretty sure. Where, what do you know? They split Washington out wide. And Cam Taylor-Britt had no choice but to just grab one of his arms and hold it down and hope he didn't catch it with the other hand and take the penalty in the end zone because it's a mismatch nightmare. They did it for the first passing touchdown of the season. Now, was it the Baltimore game I was at that they were finding him over the middle of the field where Russ could actually see him and they were hitting him for a while, and then he went one too many times and threw it over his head. Maybe they just needed to get, so maybe there's other reasons with that of that interception, caused things to go back. But if you look at it, I mean, after that game in Baltimore where he was targeted 3 times, 2 receptions, 42 yards, most of his career. They targeted him Thursday night in Cleveland 3 times. After that, here were his targets for the rest of the season. 1 against Cincinnati. None against Cleveland the second time. None against Philly. None against Baltimore the second time. 1 against Kansas City. None against Cincy in the wild card. Or not in the wild card, in the week 18. And twice against Baltimore in the wild card where he caught 1 for 9 yards.
It's criminal. It's almost criminal.
Yeah.
But,
he was not targeted against the Chargers.
The guy
Until then, he didn't go untargeted again until Cleveland, and he went 3 games in a row not being targeted, and 4 out of 5 with 1 target in 1 game in there.
The guy caught 80% of the balls you threw his way.
Yeah.
How do you not at least try to get him 40 plus targets?
Yeah. So and it's not like you have to target him all the time. You really don't. I understand. I mean, the other thing that bothers me is how many times is he targeted running and out towards the sideline? Put the dude in the middle of the field where he's big and he can. But then what did they get scared about? Oh, he's big and he's tall, and if it goes over his head because the throw was so high, he's thinking it's to somebody else down the field, and then they intercept it. I mean, to me, not targeting him is living in your fear. Now, it's not like, just because of that, he's so great. I get it. More targets doesn't mean better production. But it just doesn't seem to compute because he's such a mismatch issue. Use the mismatch. Okay. So to me, that's what I say with him going forward. Use the mismatch. Use it to your advantage. Yeah.
Do it.
All right. So you ready to move on? We
Yep.
got to keep rolling. We're getting there. All right. Here's a fun one. Nick Herbig.
Arrow pointing up.
Yeah. So to me, I had Washington. He was trended up. That he made a jump, and I think the arrow's pointing up for Washington. Herbig, yeah. So what did you think from year 1 to year 2? You think it was a jump?
Yeah, partly because it was did he get because the question was, did he get away with it in year 1 just because teams didn't know him or anything like that? No, it was still there. He still got it. He is really quick off the edge. He's learned a lot from TJ Watt. You put him in the rotation, him, Watt, and Highsmith, and you've got something. What I'd like to see next year is that we got, what did we say? it was because they were all early in the year. The snaps where all three of them were on the field. Oh my gosh, would love to see that a little more. Um, I just Nick Herbig. I was worried he was too small. He's not.
My thing is he is kind of all over the place. There were some weeks that he graded out as one of the best pass rushers, if not the best pass rusher in the NFL, for like 4 or 5 different weeks. But then there were others where he just wasn't. And usually those ones that he wasn't, he was playing lower amount of snaps. So, and I mean, he did not play well against Baltimore any of the 3 games. There was a matchup issue there of some kind where he did not do well against Baltimore. Now, could that be concerning? Maybe, maybe not. You know, I mean, those were 3 of his worst games. But to me, it's just, hey, if that's what he's going to do, you let him do his thing. And I kind of like the whole notion of just, rotate the 3 guys, get him out there a little bit more. I felt that he did take a step forward, and I think that there's no reason to think that he couldn't again. The thing was, he didn't make a lot of noise at the end of the season. There was a stretch in the middle of the season, like he was doing great in that Dallas game and he got hurt. Okay, then missed up through the bye week. Then out of the bye, those games the Steelers played, oh, that's right, he missed the Washington game too. So it was a week after that. When he came back against Baltimore, he didn't have a very good game, but he did have some pressure there. I'm trying to see which games he actually had as sacks. He had 2 sacks against Dallas, 1 in Cleveland, 1 in Cincinnati back-to-back, and then 1 more in Cincinnati at the end of the season. So that's and when I say that, I don't know if there's any halves in there because if I'm looking at PFF stats, they don't look at halves. I had a couple against the Chargers. So but towards the end of the season, he wasn't getting more than 1 pressure a game. Basically from the Baltimore game on. So that's one thing I would like to see. Maybe a little bit more consistency, but I really like the tools that's out there. All right. Yeah. So, but he's definitely more of a pass rusher than the run stopper, where I think Highsmith is the opposite. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. This one I don't know is going to take very long. Corey Trice.
Still just a little more question. Not enough sample size, honestly, is really what it comes down to. The samples I've seen, I've actually been kind of okay with, and thinking, the Steelers might have something there, but the key word there is might, because the sample size just isn't big enough.
Yeah. He played well against Denver, got hurt the next week. Played 1 defensive snap before was hurt. Then he came back but was inactive. Played against Baltimore, he was okay. Against Kansas City, he was the best person in the secondary. He was the best. He was the best coverage guy they had against Kansas City on Christmas Day, and it wasn't even close. Then they started him against Cincinnati because Dante Jackson was out, and they had no problem matching him up against Jamar Chase 101, even without help when he was supposed to have help, which was a little bit frustrating. But then he wasn't even active for the playoff game. That's why I'm like, I just don't know what to think about it. That's the thing that bothered me.
Yeah.
I'm like, so he went from 0 games as a rookie to 6 games, one of which only played 1 snap before he got hurt his next year. Once again, he's not someone that the Steelers could bank on contributing in the secondary again, because they just didn't call on him enough.
Yeah, it's just again, this is another one where really you're going to learn a lot about Corey Trice and what he is, what he could be, and what the Steelers think of him will be figured out in this next year.
Yeah.
He needs to come in. If he comes in and has a good camp and pushes for time and this and that, then plays and stays healthy and gets a lot of snaps and things like that, then you might start to think, okay, well, maybe, you can go with it a little bit. Otherwise, it could quickly turn into a moving on.
I mean, he was a seventh round draft pick, so it's not like you'd be out anything. To me, if Corey Trice is a starter next year, then it's because he's playing exceptionally well. Because I don't think the Steelers have any plans on calling on him. But if they have to, you know what I mean? The Steelers can even go out and add a cornerback in free agency or in the draft and everything. But if Corey Trice is better, that's a good thing. And I think he's got the potential to be, but still he's got nothing you can really bank on.
Right.
So, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we've got one more to do, and then we'll get the super chat, and then we'll answer the big question. And the last one is good old Spencer Anderson.
You know what? For where he was drafted, what it's been, Spencer Anderson, serviceable.
Yeah.
Serviceable. That's the word I would use. And honestly, you get a guy that late in the draft and he's serviceable.
Yeah. He played one snap as a rookie. One.
Yeah.
Yeah. One snap. On defense. I mean, I don't think that does include special team stuff. And I'm pretty sure that was a play that he came in as the jumbo tight end, and the Steelers covered him up and got called for a penalty, and the other team declined it because it was one of those weird things. So maybe he had another play in there, but he was it's one of those things.
Thank you for saying that, Afton. That's why I was giving the funny looking eye to Dave.
Yeah. What's that?
Because you said he played one snap on defense.
I sound sorry. On offense.
I was like,
Jeez. This is what happens when we have to do the show this late. But no, he started. I'm trying to count him up. He started 5 games. Spot starting. One of them was a start because they started in jumbo, but he had to start early in the season with Sayamalu being out.
Yep.
He was serviceable. He started the wild card game and played well. I mean, that was where he got his most action, was in the wild card game, and it was his best game of the season. He played well. Unfortunately, a lot of other things didn't go well. Yeah. So to me, looking at what he is, and that is a backup player on the offensive line, I felt that he made a nice jump, and I feel that he's trending up.
Yep.
So,
and it's nice to have that guy that if he has to start, to quote Coach Tomlin, he's not going to kill us.
Yes. So, before I hit the super chat here, what would you say to sum up the entire draft class of 2023 after 2 seasons?
So far, I would call it a decent draft, just partly because all the guys are still around.
Yeah.
Decent draft, but it's hard to give it a full. And we've talked about this, that you really can't give a draft a grade until 3 years. Yeah. And I still feel that the final grade on this draft will be made next year. But I think I still like this draft. I'm still like, hey, it was a good one. Maybe not that you hit a ton of home runs, but but maybe you hit for the cycle, which maybe is even better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this could still potentially be one of those drafts that you look back at and say, that was a special one for the Steelers.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I think they are trending in the right direction. I know the biggest question mark, honestly, is Broderick Jones.
Yep.
Um,
If Broderick Jones comes in and knocks it out of the park last year, you can take a look at that entire draft and be like, "Wow,
yeah,
that was
Yep.
that was a really good one."
yeah. So, all right, we did get $5 into the tip jar from Kyle Smith. That says TJ was clearly hampered from the ankle injury, pulled out of the Pro Bowl. He's pulled out of the Pro Bowl every year for the last several years. So
Why would you go to the Pro Bowl?
yeah, with what they're doing now, yeah.
Yeah.
So you could say blame on the. Why did the Steelers not give him time to heal when they had the OLB depth?
Did they? Because he's TJ Watt.
Because he's TJ friggin' Watt. Why
If
did
TJ
Cam
Watt-
Hayward,
if TJ
why
Watt
did Cam
says-
Hayward come back and play the second half of last year injured?
Right.
Not as good as what he could be, because an injured Cam Hayward made that Steelers. It was night and day against the run in 2023 when Cam Hayward played and when he didn't, even though he wasn't out there doing the things like he did this past year. Same thing with TJ Watt. I will say it again. TJ Watt is not just a game changer. He's a game plan changer. And was TJ Watt, could he give you everything at the end of the season? I believe that's a correct statement, that he could not. That there was things going on injury-wise that was bothering him. But having teams having to account for TJ Watt, even if he wasn't registering stats, made the Steelers defense better than what it would have been if there wasn't TJ Watt. That's why.
All right, so Kyle came back then and asked this, and I'm going to answer it. And okay, but he wasn't TJ Watt. Okay, he wasn't the TJ Watt we have grown accustomed to. Okay, but if TJ Watt feels that his health is in a place that he can at least be on the field and contribute to the team, and in his condition was still your best option, why are you going to tell him no?
Yeah.
No team is doing that.
The question is was he going to do something that would make him that could make the injury worse, things like that? You had a lot of things to balance. Okay.
Right. So
Okay, I think this is a pretty good way to
This
say
is a
it.
good
Jamie
one.
Carlo said Steelers win 90% of their games with 100% TJ Watt, and only win probably 50% of their games with the 70% TJ Watt.
and I think though that we've discovered that they only win 10% without TJ Watt.
And they win 10% with no TJ Watt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get Kyle. I get the question. I get the statement. I'm not saying that the statement is outlandish or foolish or anything like that. Just looking at it from purely from a football breakdown type of look at it, and it's like if a guy can go out on the field, it's really hard to tell a guy no, especially if the training staff is saying they're not going to do any more damage. They're just not going to be 100%.
Yeah.
The other thing was this: we don't know exactly what was going on. Okay, so you sit TJ Watt say for 2 weeks, okay, and maybe he was running at 70%, and you give him 2 weeks off, and he might still only be running at 70%.
The problem is who's really running at 100% at the end of the season when they play 17 games?
Yeah, nobody.
That's why, yeah. I mean, people want to go to 18 games. I'm like, my goodness, you got to give more bye weeks too. You got to do that too. Which still is going to, you're going to get players run down at the end of the season. It's going to happen. But I'm going to ask you this. Oh, let's go back. Oh, I don't know, Rich, about 8 seasons, maybe. What would you rather have on the field to have a better chance to win? A 70% Ben Roethlisberger or 100% Landry Jones?
Yeah. You're taking the Ben Roethlisberger all day.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, well, they had depth, but I'm like, but you didn't have defensive player of the year depth. You didn't even have Pro Bowl depth. Right?
Yes.
So you got to look at it. I mean, yeah, your depth is great for an NFL team, but I mean, when you don't have a former defensive player of the year out there, it does make a difference.
Hold on,
So
bring
I
one
kind of
more
see
up
both
from
ways.
Kyle. Says, I care about the quality of the product and more rest is necessary because he's talking about maybe
if the
second bye week.
Steelers lose the last 4 games of the season, going into the playoffs and going as a wild card in the 6th seed, which they did anyway, but if they did that by resting TJ Watt, Steelers Nation would have lost their collective mind about the Steelers throwing away the season and only playing for the playoffs and then put themselves in a bad situation against to have to go to Baltimore.
Right. But what I'm wanting to say about
It's a
what
whole different
Kyle
argument.
said there is I understand that you can talk about this across the entire NFL. Okay. The problem is you're not that it's not changing. Okay. Roger Goodell and the ownership, it's not changing. So we as fans, we're stuck. We're stuck with whatever the product is they want to give us. And right now that's what it is, where you're getting guys worn out and not being able to play at their highest level at the end of the season. There are ways that the NFL could fix that, but they're not interested in that. They're interested in money.
Okay, yeah, and sorry, Kyle, I did not realize that I did not see your comment before the one Rich brought up, that you were talking about.
I did, which is why I was trying to cut you off then,
Yeah,
because
sorry.
you didn't
So,
have the whole
I
story.
thought he was talking about just resting TJ Watt once
No.
for the end of the yeah. So sorry about that, but no. But there were people that would have, maybe not necessarily Kyle, that would have said, "Oh yeah, well you should have just got him healthy for the playoffs." No, the Steelers were trying to win the AFC North. If you wanted to make an argument, you could have rested him week 18. But at that point, they had 10 days rest.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I feel that basically, if I were to guess at what was going on with TJ Watt is something that needed the offseason.
Yeah. That's the question. Is it something that another week of rest would have helped? Because guess what? Cam Hayward had 8 weeks off, came back. Was a 9th week going to help him be any better until we added surgery in the offseason last year? Nope. He was just going to have to do what he had to do. Should they have rested Hayward a couple more games down the stretch last year? Don't know that would have made a difference.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we just don't know. But yeah, there's a lot. So sorry, I didn't realize that's what you were saying. Rich, we got to get to the big question. Get out of here.
Yep.
You ready? It's way too late because of when we started. Here's your big question. So everyone get ready. Remember, don't put yours in there yet. But it's really simple.
Don't press send.
Don't press send. I have that, but I'm not going to take the time to look at it. You have 7 choices because we just went over them all. Of all those players, who do you think makes the most significant jump in year 3?
In year 3.
In year 3. So from now to next year, which player do you think makes the most significant jump in year 3 from the Steelers from their 2023 draft?
Okay, I am taking the low-hanging fruit. To me, the low-hanging fruit is Broderick Jones. Broderick Jones makes the biggest jump. He turns this into looking at for Omar Khan as being a pretty good draft to saying, hey, that was a really good draft.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance he gets back to playing left tackle. I think he'll feel comfortable there. And it could work out very nicely.
Yeah, that's an easy one because I think he has the most room to improve.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. So that's, to me, that's what would you call that the low hanging fruit? I think that's why.
There's a second place. Are you gonna take the second place?
Well, I don't know the second place not, but mine is who I wanted it to be last year. I'm going again.
Oh, are you?
I'm going Keanu
Okay.
Benton.
Okay.
I'm going Keanu Benton. I think if they move him more permanently to a defensive tackle, if they're able to do that, I would like to see him really come onto the scene. That's probably talking more from my heart than anything else. But you could really go with any of these guys. You really could. There's not a bad answer here. And here it goes. It is now in the live chat for you all to put your choice of which player you think is going to take from this draft class will take the biggest jump in year 3. What would be great is if it's a big debate because they all jump so high.
Yep.
I hope it's a tough one to call. Okay. Here we go. We start off. We got Steeler Chick 46 saying Mount Washington. Okay. Steel Dog 88 says Broderick Jones. Get him there where he could be. TD Tom Dessenberger says Benton, kind of like me, if they get him more to defensive tackle. Kathy Ford, she's got Mount Washington.
I like that one, John. That's nice. I like how it goes in there.
Oh, he's making me talk.
Now we need him on the. We need to get him on the show.
Yeah,
we need to get Big Bro Joe to come join us on.
Yeah, because John S says Big Bro Joe,
which I'm guessing we meet Broderick Jones. Yep.
Big Broderick. That's a good one. I like that one. Why had we not thought of that before?
I don't know. That's a good one, John S. I'm going to use that one going down.
Yeah,
down the road here.
There we go. Then we got Gavin Anthony says Benton. Mr. Woodside says Benton. Kyle Smith says Benton. Afton Ford says Trice. I can see that as well. Okay. Sherry Richardson says she's hoping it's Washington, but I got to say it just because of the rhyme that Trice would be nice. Okay. Right. Jamie Carlo says Benton. Sherry Richards says, "Can I see Arthur Smith?" But
no,
that wouldn't be
because he'd only be year 2.
Only be year 2.
That's right.
It'll only be year 2. So that one doesn't count.
We'll add Arthur Smith to the list of the year 2s that we talk about next year.
Next year, okay. And Ruben Stone says Keanu Benton. If we have any more stragglers come in, I'll try to bring them up. Hey, I've got to make sure we say it. If you didn't check it out, go to steelcurtainnetwork.com. Now, even if you go to the old link or anything, everything now is redirecting to our new page. The new page was, I'd said on the show before, it was up only if you typed it a certain way. You could get there, you could see it, but it wasn't really as functioning. Now, there is no old page. It is now just this one. It's got a Steelers look to it. Okay. The biggest problem that we're dealing with now is the comment section. It's working. You can sign in, you can make comments, but there's some little things that we'd like to tweak with it to make it a little bit better, but we really couldn't know exactly what problems we were going to have until we actually had people there commenting. So make sure you go check that out. The content is the content. I still feel that we have great content that we put out there. And what we really need is the community. Get people there. Just the article about the new website had a bunch of people commenting and back and forth and things. It's really the community, much like we get here with the live chat, that you can really go in there and look at some stuff. Because, like, for example, this weekend, I was going to ask your opinion real quick, Rich, I did an article about that I think the best thing the NFL could do to tweak the kickoff rule is to move the kickoff team 5 yards closer where they line up to the goal line. Instead of line up at the 40, line them up at the 35. So that way there's more of a chance that there could be tackles inside the 20. Then I think teams won't kick it into the end zone as much. You'll get more returns. So that's one of those things in there.
But Dave, you have to remember they don't want more returns. That was
What's that?
The whole reason for the change is they don't want more returns.
No, they want more returns. They just didn't want big collisions, which they didn't have. So it's funny. Steel Dog 88 did ask a question, said Super Bowl picks. That would require us. I very well might skip the game.
I am skipping the game.
I'm not having people over. I'm not making any special food. It's going to be the first time I haven't done anything for a Super Bowl in forever. I just feel that it's not really worth my time. So we'll see how that's going. So hey, if you like my idea of the kickoff rule, that's an article. You got to scroll down to the second below the top 5 articles, but it's right there. Go in and put in there what you have to say. And of course, our podcasts lineup is coming. We got Black and Gold Blueprint. Roy Countryman and Rob. That is going to be permanently throughout the off season. And then we'll see beyond that. On our network, that's the Friday show after Let's Ride. Steel City Insider. There's stuff going on there. They're on a little bit of a hiatus with some things because of some stuff going on there. So we might have some other things in place there. Got another maybe another show coming out for you guys here in the next several weeks that'd be fun. I'm not going to announce it. I don't know if Brian has said anything yet or not, so I'm not going to do it. So, all right, Rich. I don't think there's any more. Nope, I didn't see any more answers to the question. So, what do you have to say to close out here tonight?
All right, here we go. Dave, do you realize that when we do our show next Tuesday night, the entirety of the NFL will be in the off season?
That's true.
Now, we feel like we've already been in the off season for a few weeks because we kind of have, but the entirety of the NFL will be in the off season. To me, that is always a bit of a disappointment, but actually, after the last few years, Dave, some of the stuff you and I have done with the show have actually made me enjoy some more off-season things that I didn't always think about or enjoy before. So I'm feeling like looking at it to the NFL offseason tonight as a glass half full kind of guy.
Wow.
So I am ready to say, Dave, I'm ready to embrace the offseason, to already starting to think about and potentially have some excitement over some of the things that the Steelers may not are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm going to try to stay positive. Shut up, Kathy. Shut up.
Kathy just had to throw there about and mock drafts. So, yeah.
You know what? Maybe I'll try to turn over a new leaf this year. And maybe I will even try to embrace some mock drafts. Try. I make no promise.
Yeah.
But I will try. Because I'll tell you, when the Steelers season ended, I was extremely disappointed. I spent a week being kind of angry about things.
Yep.
And finally I was like, dude, you're taking it a little bit too personal. You're taking it just a little too much into it. It's football. It's a game. Now, so my anger is done at the Pittsburgh Steelers. My anger is not done at the NFL. I still have issues with the NFL in general. But I am good with the Pittsburgh Steelers again. Honestly, year 3, I'm ready to, we get the offseason. That's when I can get excited now. Let's see what Omar's cooking up. Because so far I've been happy with what he's cooked up for the Steelers in the offseason, and he's got the chance to do it again. Who knows what he could throw our way. But we're going to be here to talk about it one way or the other. Can't wait.
You gotta just chill out, man.
Can't wait.